What's up, everybody? It's Chad. I'm back again with another episode of Ask Chad Grassy Logic. I'm here today with my friend Mary of 420 Nurses Southwest, right?
Yep. Hi, everyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. She's actually reached out a while back to be on the show, and it just happens to be her time. So thank you for joining me. We're actually 4 episodes away from the last episode of the season. Yeah. This is like one of the last episodes of this season, guys. We got 4 away. The last episode will actually be aired at the Grassy Logic Expo happening the 12th and the 13th here in Las Cruces at the Las Cruces Convention Center. What's up?
3.
Oh, I was off. Yeah. This is 1. Yeah. So 3 after this. Yeah. So we have like 3 left. So the last episode will be filmed at the Expo. So we're thinking of maybe allowing people to come watch an episode be recorded. I don't know. What do you think, Mary? Is that a good idea?
That sounds like a great idea.
Okay. Yeah, I think so too. So we'll allow you guys to come watch an episode be filmed and all that. I think it'll be a great time and a great experience. Kind of a little behind the scenes of how it's done. But yeah, we're getting close. Thank you so much for joining me again. Before we move on, though, I want to thank my sponsor, Monster House. Thank you guys so much. Sorry we haven't been back. We just haven't had an in-person guest in the past month or so like that. So I think actually the rest of the season it's going to be remote guests except for the last one at the Expo. So I don't think we'll be back there this season unless we have another episode that we do off or something like that. Who knows? But thank you guys so much for your contribution to the show. Helps us keep going and everything. But without further ado, let's jump into the episode today. Thank you so much again for joining me, Mary. And let's get into it. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you're from. This whole thing you got going on here.
Well, I'm here in El Paso, Texas, born and raised. I didn't stay here, though. I've done my fair amount of traveling, especially with the 420 Nurses. The 420 Nurses has been a huge blessing in my life. I've made so many friends. I've experienced so many, honestly, blessings. I can't say any other way.
Yeah.
Through the network that I've met because of the company and the events that we've done. And honestly, it's been a magical experience on multiple levels. Besides that, I've also done in the EDM community, and I have gone to school. I've done my few degrees. I have an associate's, a bachelor's, a master's, all in business areas, and I'm still in school. So we're going for the doctorate. So when I say that I have a PhD in THC later, y'all believe me.
Awesome. That's cool to hear. Yeah, I was like, oh, going up the ladder, associates, bachelor's, master's. I was like, oh, she's going to keep going. And I was like, you are. So that's awesome. And congratulations on those. That's I don't even have that. I just have my associates. So that's cool that you're doing that, and you're still continuing your education. Education is really important. That's why the show exists. So how long have you been part of 420 Nurses?
I started with the 420 Nurses in 2017,
Okay.
and I was actually just a model. So it's a network of models. Essentially, we're like promoters. That's where my transformation from EDM went into more of the cannabis community.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so blessed that both merged together, especially here in El Paso.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge blessing that as we're all part of the alternative lifestyle, we can, commute together so beautifully. I know, shout out to 1111. We have a lot of events there that have a lot of different cannabis sponsors. Of course, we don't allow cannabis inside because it's not legal in Texas, but, they do give out coupons and lanyards and, commune with the locals and explore a little bit more of the outer of El Paso regions, as you can say. Because again, Texas isn't as legal as New Mexico is.
Oh yeah, at all. Yeah, so that's the unfortunate part, but it's great that El Paso is really embracing it in that sense. And I kind of figured that was going to be the case and figured that was going to happen. But I've also wondered, because Southern Park is essentially a micro look into what the Texas market could look like. because the Sunland Park, and I tell this people all the time, that's the Texas market. That's
Mhm.
Mexico market whatsoever. That is straight Texas market. You don't treat that market like you do the rest of the state. Just
Mm-mm.
vastly different. I mean, a big majority of our sales come from out of state and a lot come from Texas. But in Sunland Park, I would say it's a good 70 to 80% of the sales there come from El Paso in Texas in general. So yeah, I've been kind of curious to see, this whole transition because, Texas is probably about 5 years away or so. Probably from full legalization, if not sooner. I'm just giving it, the little max there, but if not sooner. You guys are fighting hard over there. I know there's some decrim stuff on a few ballots on the this year on the election. So if you guys are going to go vote, please vote. Just to let you know, you don't have to vote everything on the ballot. You can vote for those two things and turn it in as long as you guys vote. And that can change things. You guys can decrim it in a city in Texas, in one of the bigger cities in Texas, and that's is it in Dallas that they're doing that?
I believe so. Dallas or Fort Worth area.
Okay, so the area, so that's huge. Like that's big. That and it shows support. Because once the voters start showing support, and then the legislators do, and we'll get onto that actually a little bit later, more on that one because we're actually going to be talking something similar on that. But let's get back to the whole 420 nurses thing. Do you work for any like dispensaries or cannabis businesses in New Mexico?
We work for brands more often.
Okay.
Of course, there's independent models that are all over the state that work for different dispensaries. Some for like Pure Life, some for I guess that's just my favorite. I'm sorry. That's the one that I go to most. But there's like smaller dispensaries, of course. Here locally, we have had, not to name drop, but some of the High Horse girls model with us. We've had a variety of brands reach out to us. We worked with like Blown, that's a little bit more of like a glass company. We worked with like Pine Trees. Back in the day, of course, like we would venture a little bit more before COVID. We would venture out more we would travel as a group to California, and we worked with like LA Kush, and we worked with a variety of like brands. Like it's been an experience, honestly. Like
it is, yeah. Uh-oh, there we go. It cut out a little bit. No worries. But yeah, it sounds like it's been an experience for you and everything, and like just a whole journey. Because is the 420 nurses Southwest thing, is that new? Like how long has that been around?
We started right before COVID hit.
Okay.
And then COVID hit. So it's been rough.
Yeah.
And honestly, after COVID, the times changed a lot.
Yeah.
And like, it's night and day market. Like we're coming out right now as post-COVID, I guess you can kind of say, sort of, even though it's kind of around still. We're still in the COVID area. It's the great time, okay? It's the great time where we're not sure what era it is. Are we past COVID? Not past COVID. But like people are coming out more now. So we're starting to come out more. And it's a lot different being able to connect with people back then and have that experience and that connection than it is now. So it's revamping, let's say that way.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I was kind of curious because I saw, I looked at the Instagram page and, I noticed, it was the Southwest portion. I was like, oh, they have different chapters. And, I didn't realize that. So I guess you guys have. And as I was talking before the show, I actually watched a 420 Nurses documentary. I think it came out just last year. And, that was one of the things they mentioned is like, we do have new other chapters. And it was right after I wrote that question. I was like, huh. I was like, that's pretty funny. But yeah, I guess there's, chapters not just in America, but in other countries, right?
Australia, Europe. I've the Aussies they're so cool. It's just the accent. I wish I could emulate it. It's next level for me. And they're so sweet. Like, being from a different country, you kind of don't know what to expect sometimes, and you kind of just presume that they're going to be rude.
Yeah.
And in this community, we're so fortunate. Of course, everybody's like personality is different, but I haven't met a 420 nurse that I didn't get along with. You know, we didn't go in the same circle. You know, we all hit the same blunt.
Yeah, I mean, we're all cannabis users at the end of the day. You know,
Yeah.
we may smoke a little bit differently, but you know, at the end of the day, we're still smoking the same plant. You know,
Yeah.
it brings people together. So that's great to hear. You know, and I myself, I like the Kiwi accent, which is like a twangy or more Australian accent. You know, it's from like New Zealand, but I get it. You know, the accent is really cool too. You know, of course, you know, most of us from my era, at least, you know, I was born in the '80s. You know, Crocodile Dundee. You know, we all remember him. That's not an off. So, you know, we all had that growing up, and that's great. You know, that, you know, they've expanded that much because, you know, let's dive into a little bit. You know, what is some quick history of the 420 nurses? Like, when did it get started? And, you know, like all that good stuff.
It started in the early 2000s, and we have been pretty much, I don't like to say it like that, but essentially we're one of the OG modeling companies networks in the cannabis community. The founders have been in like the Cannabis Cup, Cottonmouth Kings videos, like just it's an astronomical amount of achievements that I could list right now over a decade. It's been over a decade. It's almost
Right.
15
Almost 20
years.
years, yeah.
Or yeah. I think, where's my numbers? What year is it? Geez, I don't want to count anymore. I'm not.
I know.
Just kidding. We're talking about age, and after you turn 21, ladies, this is a pro tip. You only have anniversaries, okay? So I'm going on my 14th anniversary of being 21, and we don't usually disclose those numbers, but you know, it's up there already. So the ladies that founded the company, because we're a woman-owned, we're a rainbow community company. The founders are a polyamorous couple, or truple. Jimmy, Chacha, and Summer. They're beautiful people, so nice, so humble. They raise their family on a farm. They're really, really cool to interact with, and you know, the energy that you reciprocate is reciprocated around all of us, you know. And it's when we all have, like, when they host the sessions over there in California, which every like week there's a sesh. So depending on the week, several times a week. So it's really, it's beautiful to like interact with everybody and have that sense of community, not just in California, but also in Arizona, in New Mexico, in Colorado. And like I don't travel too much east, not gonna lie. The West is the best. The West is the best.
Less crowded out here.
it's you know, yeah, and I think we're a lot nicer.
Yeah, I think so.
Because of the EDM community, I've met some people from the East Coast, and we just have a different sense of communication, that the vibes are a little bit different sometimes, you know?
Yeah, you know, and a different kind of colonizer was in that area of the country too. So, you know, we had the Spanish, they had the British, you know, so it made a difference.
It does, you know? Yeah. You don't really think about the kind of colonizer that you have in America really like brings up the community, but it does.
Yeah, it's a big difference, you know, like growing up over here is different than growing up on the eastern part of the states, just because it's just vastly different, you know, like the way they talk, the way they pronounce. Like I have friends in the Army, they're from the East Coast, and one, she's from Connecticut, she says wooter instead of water. So I always make fun of her. I'm like, oh, you want some wooter?
I had a friend like that. I haven't talked to a lot of the West or East Coast friends in a while, like in person. But that's always so funny to hear.
Yeah, it is, you know, and the differences and everything. So yeah, you know, I've noticed it myself too, how different they are. And one thing that's interesting too is only 30% of Americans live west of the Mississippi. So like there's like far less people over here too. So I'm like, oh, less assholes.
Facts, facts. Maybe
I'm like,
that's why they're like that. They're just so crowded. They're like they don't have enough space to be themselves. We'll put it
yeah,
that way.
yeah. If we want space, it's minutes away. So those poor guys, it kind of takes a minute. So I get it. Maybe they're just a little grouchy, I guess. But I actually appreciate their honesty. They are very, very honest.
Oh yeah. I'm a Sagittarius. We're very blunt. It gets us in trouble quite often. That's part of our bad reputation. But
Yeah. Yeah, like I like to tell people I'm overly honest, probably because of autism. So
that's on top of it. That's just on top of it.
That's on top of the whole thing. Let's get into a little nitty gritty. What are some misconceptions about 420 nurses? Because I've been around for a long time, and I'm sure you've heard a bunch of things. Just even watching the documentary, they went over it too. And this is another question that popped up as I was writing it. The topic kind of came up, and I kind of figured I'd ask you because we've all kind of dealt with just even being a cannabis user, being treated differently. Like even now, even within the community in a microscope, there's businesses and organizations like you guys. What are some things that you've dealt with like that?
That we're all drug dealers, that we're all burnouts, that we do nothing. A lot of like stoner typical, like all you do is smoke weed.
Like smoke weed and take pictures? Is that
yeah. There's no brains, especially because a lot of it's just a general thing on the internet. But of course, as a network, when females get together, and of course, it's just a common denominator in the female community at this point in this generation, at this day and age, for like the adult content.
Yeah.
We have a lot of misconceptions with that. No, not all the models do adult content. Do some do it? Yes. Do a lot of them do it? I'm not gonna lie and say that more of my friends do than don't, but I do have friends that don't. Okay, guys, there are models that don't do adult content in a more pornographic sense, because we all do adult content in the sense that it's with cannabis.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And I have friends that do adult content too, like these days it's kind of more common than not, especially after COVID, for someone to have or is doing now. Because just the other day someone just posted that she started doing OnlyFans, and I was like, oh, well, proud to you, I guess. So like to be honest, like that kind of argument these days doesn't really stand up, because someone that is most likely doing adult content somewhere. Someone that close to you. So yeah, that's kind of one of the things I kind of figured would pop up, and especially back in the day when you guys first came out, that wasn't something that was as prevalent, and people were really hush hush about if they did do something like that, especially the cam stuff back in the day. Like it wasn't as open with people. So I could see that being a thing, especially, still being taboo. America, we tend to be prudes. I say this a lot, like I was in the military, so I did get to travel and go to other countries and everything. And even after I got out, I did contracting. I went to Germany. Well, there was titties on the TV. There's titties in the newspaper. They're very open about it. Yeah, it's nothing to them, and you come to America. And what's funny is they're very Catholic. We're very Catholic here and conservative. They're very Catholic too. In every village, the tallest building is a church, as a Catholic church, and it's very old. And so it's funny to see that, like, okay, walk 5 minutes and you see boobies on the TV. And then you come here to the Southwest, and they're very Catholic too. And
where are the boobs?
Yeah, I growing up in Alamogordo, we had Germans. And so some of them didn't really, get that either. Like, oh, what? Nudity is okay. What but, like we're all born naked, So like, that was kind of, a sobering thing. And it made me realize how prudish we are in America, and kind of certain things we need to just let go. Like stop holding on to your pearls with it so much, because it's really not that big of a deal. It's just some titties.
It's really not.
Yeah.
And that's something that in the 420 nurses has been always a, I don't want to say like the goal was to collect all the or the subculture, but essentially that was part of the feeling and in conversations, the commonalities that we wanted to have, the people that needed to feel the safest, to feel safest, because we are looked down upon quite heavily for doing this.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, this makes you incapable of being able to essentially do anything in some people's eyes. And for some people, a lot of the patients, which is how the name came about, 420 nurses, because in California, when it first started, it was all medical and you had to be a patient. California patient, 2012, before regulation happened here in Texas, and still in Texas, even CBD is very, very frowned upon.
Yeah.
On my personal history, I developed SSRI induced Parkinson's, so I have tremors, my handshake, and also as a photographer, because I'm a published photographer, that makes it kind of hard to take pictures sometimes. So if I don't medicate one form or another, I can't function like a normal person would, and it makes life more stressful and more just less life, you know? And some people don't understand that for them, a pill is okay because they need 3 compounds. And sometimes you need 273 of the compounds in here.
No, like that's a good point. You know, and that's something that I've questioned a lot too. You know, especially dealing with like the VA. You know, they push the pills, and I don't take any pills from the VA. You know, like they used to send me ibuprofen, and I don't even take that anymore. You know, because like when I was in the military, that's literally if you had like a sprained ankle, you got ibuprofen. Yeah, you know, if you know, like you just got ibuprofen for everything. But you know, I stopped taking it after a while and everything, especially with the cannabis thing. I'm like, you know what? Well, what's really the difference? You know, like I get it, you're getting your dosages, you're getting the doctor stuff, but I'm talking about the medicine side of it. You know, what's the difference? A lot of these opiates come from poppies. You know, they come from a plant, and then they extract it, and then they put it through a chemical process, right? And then you end up with the pill. And then they say, this will help with this and this and this. But you have a plant that does the same thing, you know, that you could do the same thing with, and it's going to be less harmful because you put it through less of a process. And that's one thing that's I've kind of thought about for a long time. Like this still doesn't, like with psilocybin, you know, here in New Mexico, we're really pushing for, you know, medical psilocybin here soon. You know, I'm trying to help with that as well. And, you know, it's kind of like, well, why not do psilocybin? You know, we push so much of these opiates and these, you know, fake pills. Why not go something more natural? You know, like, you know, something that's helping people now, you know. So that's been my thing too, is, you know, like, why are we discriminating against medicine, regardless if plant or if it's in pill? You know,
exactly. That's something that the nurses has been part of, advocacy groups. Essentially since the beginning. That's how the nurses got founded. You know, like wanted to be active in the community and make like progress and change. Honestly, like holistics, it's in California. You can definitely find some I'll call them patty preps. But at the boutique, we carried them, not here locally, but like essentially with the 420 nurses, everything that you can find online, you could get here locally as well. Everything that we have online is legal throughout the United States. It's hemp products, so it can be shipped anywhere across America. In stores, at the local shop, did have a little bit of more variety that you could shop with because local laws are different, you know? So that's definitely some of the things that holistic medicine has such a future. And honestly, we're excited we're really, really excited to be part of that future too.
Yeah, everything right now is historic. You're part of a lot of historical parts of the cannabis industry and everything, and we all are right now. This is
The
the
Green
very
Rush.
this is the very pioneering part. This is the very frontier of it all. We're figuring it out. We're fucking up, but we're trying not to do that again. Kind of situation. We're trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. What's changing. This is an ever changing market. Like just 2 years ago, people were probably smoking more probably extracts that were made with solvents, and now more people are
BHO.
moving to solventless.
Yeah.
To the rosins, to the full melts, to other hashes. We're starting to realize that, and it's starting to shift, and we're going to see that, and you guys have to change with it too. So speaking of with the industry too, how active are you guys? Because I went and looked at your Instagram page. It looks like you guys are pretty active. You're doing a bunch of events, and you're keeping people in the know in El Paso too. So you guys are kind of helping bring that cannabis culture alive before even you guys are legal, which is fine. So what are some things that you're working on recently, or working on right now?
Right now we're really excited. We're helping the Church of Death Muerte Todd, the Church of DMT, do their first fundraiser on Dia de los Muertos on November 2nd. So again, subculture, to be kind of with everything, everybody's within our subculture. We're doing it at a haunted house, so it's still subculture. We have local artists, which I'm not going to announce right now. You can check it out online. You can definitely feel that the nurses are going to be out here, and you can find us also at other raves, local raves. We, again, because of the subculture, the community that has found us the, I guess, safest home, the plur home, because again, this is one of the, I guess, subsidiaries of the 420 nurses, the rave plant. The rave community is always a home for stoners and always has been. And that's how I became a nurse, at a rave. I met them at a rave. I was raving. And once you understand that transmission of the same frequency from community to community and safety, it becomes a new level of growth for everybody involved.
Yeah. And our society is built on many different cultures, many different people, many different religions, and that's something I support too. Is if you want to do any religion you want, go ahead and do it. That's something that I've noticed in this industry is a little more welcoming to people from different kind of things as well too, versus like other industries too. So it's great that you guys are actually out there, and really, being yourselves, because that's one thing I've noticed, these days, with the younger crowd is, the younger kids, they online, they're like, oh, we're this and this and this, but they're in person, they're not that at all. I'm like,
they're
yourself,
very filtered and very reserved.
Yeah. Like online, they're like, yeah, I'm this, but in person, they're not. And I'm like, dude, be yourself, be you, like, you can still be that brave person that, wrote that online. You can still do that, in person. You don't have to coward and do whatever, so, it's cool that you guys are really embracing that. And I didn't know that, that the 420 nurses were, kind of more of the alt, kind of thing, and kind of welcoming in that. Cause I think they came up around the same time as the Suicide Girls too, right? Around the same era. Yeah. Cause I remember that era too. It was like back in the MySpace days. Gosh, showing my age. Back in those days and everything. So yeah, that's interesting that you guys, are still doing that, going around, and you have that whole alt thing going on, which is cool, because a lot of people aren't promoting that when they do it. They still kind of put it in the shadows, and I think they're just still kind of afraid of someone from some other religion attacking them, et cetera, which I get, whatever, but at the same time, it's cool that you're putting your face out front saying, oh, I don't give a shit. Like, this is me. And if you don't like it, cool. If you like it, cool. We can vibe. If the vibes are there, the vibes are there. So that's cool. I just wanted to point that out. That's cool that, you guys really embrace that, and really kind of put it out there that, this is us. If you don't like it, we don't give a shit.
Exactly.
Is that kind of like one of the misconceptions you probably think that, people had, was that you guys were just, these models, pretty, whatever the fuck. And, you're not going to have your own kind of thing.
Yeah, honestly, it is. People forget that there's something behind the pretty face that articulates and can create. And honestly, women are changing the world.
Have been for a long time. So
Yeah, like
it's just,
Mexico just got a woman president,
yeah.
so who knows? Election day's coming up. Whew,
And we have one on
that's
the ballot.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a. I'm all, I don't know, Miss Stallion. Are you pulling out? Are you pulling out these numbers for this lady? Um, I don't know. That's speculations. Everybody has their conspiracies of like, because again, we're on that 5-year timeline, less than 5-year timeline. So theories that if Kamala does win, that Texas will or turn over faster and legalize faster. Um, so whatever win the office gets, we're just gonna manifest that, Texas regulates, because definitely the Sunland Strip, I agree with you, is the Texas like essential market, and it's the test market.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, from experiencing, like I've been to, now we just went to Cookies, the Cookies here.
Mhm.
But I've been to like Dr. Green Thumb, uh Jungle Boys, like, geez, comparison jet fuel to like other things. Honestly, I expected more of the like Dr. Green Thumbs and Cookies to be more like Jungle Boys.
Mhm.
And honestly, very few dispensaries have set that mark to even like in Albuquerque, like in like once you experience the elevator trip, it's just next level, literally next level dispensary. So it like I'm so hopeful for that potential, because Texas is so huge. We can, oh my gosh, like a Jungle Boys out here would be like, Chaparral has a bunch of like industrial buildings around it, that like, because I that's more through the area that I frequent to go west to New Mexico, so I see that like how many warehouses that, ooh, that potential. And for as many millions of dollars Texas literally gives New Mexico, because like that's essentially what we're doing. Our tax money doesn't stay within our state, it
Yeah.
goes to New Mexico.
Yeah. Which I mean, we're thankful for, we're grateful for. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, there's going to be a point where you guys are going to be like, all right, we need to stop bleeding our money into another state, because you guys are spending millions upon millions of dollars here. I mean, I have countless friends from Texas that'll hit me up, best spot to go, where should this and that, how do I get my card in Texas so I can not pay taxes in New Mexico or something, like
Mm-hmm.
it's a thing, so yeah, like I wanted to talk about that too. Let's talk about, because I call, Southern Park Little Dubai. And I call it that because, it's fast growth right now, and that's the reason why. And because not just that with other things that are going on there, but the cannabis thing is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And then what it did is it's created this micro market, like I said earlier, of Texas market. And we're seeing what that could and would look like. And it's going to be really, really competitive depending on how Texas goes about it. No, this is a micro market if Texas literally copied and pasted ours and implemented it there. I have a feeling they're not, just like any state, which is fine. I have a feeling it's going to be a little more restrictive in Texas at first than it is here. But I do feel that things are changing. And we're actually going to talk about that here very soon after this next conversation about that, because the landscape of the political support is changing, and it's changing towards cannabis. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit, because I am excited to kind of dig into that, because there's a lot that's been changing. It's changing fast, like really quick, like in the summer we had Biden running, and all of a sudden Kamala's here. We're like, holy crap. And so now then, we have Trump supporting the bill in Florida, then also essentially supporting Schedule 3 is pretty much what his word's been. And then you have Kamala talking about full-on legalization. So we have two leading candidates pretty much supporting cannabis on both sides, and both stating that no one should be getting arrested for this, and what are we doing? And then you have Congress slowly coming around. So we'll talk about that more. We'll dig in that here a little bit. I don't want to like spoil it and then get onto that conversation. I want to finish this, of course. But yeah, the Sunland Park market, in your own words, what is the market like to you? Yeah, it's the Texas market, but what is the Texas market to you? Like, is it more togetherness, or is it more just like we're just trying to get our product? Like, how is it? Because New Mexico has its own, but I want to know what the El Paso essentially is.
El Paso is a melting pot. You have a lot of people that are willing to accept what they can take right now. And hopefully it won't translate to that once it becomes legal, because right now it's desperation, and not quality.
Yeah.
And you can tell, especially from a connoisseur's point, the level of quality isn't consistent, and there's a lot of like questionable I don't want to say labs, but there's a lot of questionable statistics in the market.
You can say it. There's a lot of bullshitting the numbers.
Yeah, as fuck.
Jesus,
I was trying to be nice, but
no, don't worry about it. Sometimes you just got to be really honest.
Was that like the most understated statement I could? I was trying to PC that, but like, I don't know how many of these motherfuckers bullshit their numbers, but they fucking do. Like, the most fucking blunt way I could really honestly put that out there. I don't know how many of these fucking dispensaries fucking bullshit their fucking stats, because on some real, like okay, like not to brag, but like I have my considerable cannabis tolerance. I've been consuming essentially since I was 17 years old, and as I've grown up, I've developed more ailments, which means I need a higher dose, like having kids, my back, it's a typical mom thing. And shout out to the beautiful Canafam out there that understands, and we've had like conversations of being able to help the mothers in our community be more open and understanding, not only with each other, but as a community in general, as just mothers that do smoke and don't smoke, to understand that, moms that smoke are still moms. Because again, other misconceptions that if you're a mom that smokes weed, you don't take care of your kids, which is bullshit. Yeah, honestly,
I think it's bullshit because I've known more alcoholic moms who are terrible moms than
you need weed to take care of your kids. Okay,
do
you understand how frustrating it can be dealing with a child sometimes? Like, bro, listen already. How many times do I have to fucking repeat myself? After that conversation, bro, I'm gonna go take a dab hit in the back. Like, excuse me, go do your homework.
I'll be back. I'm gonna go to the garage. Son of a bitch.
All right. Okay, so this equation, do you understand how this goes? You become more patient, you can come back, and you can actually nurture better. It's something that doesn't get communicated or tried to be educated as often as it should be. And again, as you know, nursing the community, we have to educate each other and be able to understand each other.
Yeah, 100%. And those are some great ways to put it. Well, thank you so much for the conversation about 420 nurses and everything, your background, some other things, but let's jump off to the next conversation and everything. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was great. It's been a pleasure. Is there anything you want to add before we move on? Because I want to also ask before we go, where can people find you guys online in real life?
You can find us online at 420 nurses.com, and you can find us on Instagram at 420 nurses for the main branch, 420 nurses Southwest for us locally. Find us locally on November 2nd at Mystic Mayhem at the 915 Echoes of Horror, starting at 6 p.m.
Awesome. Yeah, it's spooky season, so that sounds like it's gonna be a fun time.
Super fun.
Heck yeah. Well, I appreciate it. And I look forward to continue the conversation on some next topics because, there's some pretty important ones. And I feel like you'd have some pretty interesting insights, especially, if someone coming from, your background, you've been to the States, you're in a state right now where it's illegal, et cetera, et cetera. So let's move on. So the Cannabis Control Division, well, actually RLD, the Regulation Licensing Department here in New Mexico, they're actually asking officially for more funding because they are realizing how the issues are bad, how bad the issues are here in New Mexico on the enforcement side. There's a lot of bad players. There's a lot of people spoofing their fucking numbers in the testing. There's a lot of testing facilities. We don't have many, but there are some testing facilities in the state not doing the right thing. There's also no standardization on that front, but that's another issue. But they officially asked for a few things from the funding from the general fund, and I'll read them off as we go. And then you and I can have a pretty cool little conversation about it and see, really what we think about this. And I'm going to ask the industry more because I do those town halls, what they feel about these two as well, to get their input, because it's the business owners and the consumers who really are part of this industry. It's not just the legislators. So they officially asked for it. So this is going to be for the fiscal year 26. So and the request includes $1.9 million from the general fund to recruit 10 additional compliance officers for the Cannabis Control Division, which I actually like that. They're hiring more people to, kind of figure this out because they are behind right now. And I'm sure you even know that. I'm sure, that the CCD is behind on things. Then they want $500,000 special request from the general fund to cover vehicles for 10 additional CCD compliance officers. I mean, that's, you don't want them using their own vehicles. I'd rather use them as state vehicles. So there's that. Then there's $745,000 from the general fund to handle orders of seizure, destruction, or embargo of non-compliant cannabis products. Now let's talk about this one in particular. So what they essentially want is they want the funds to be able to seize the cannabis, because right now, they're having a hard time seizing cannabis and taking it, and then they're also having a hard time with well, what do we do with it? We can't destroy it. So they need funding for it. So they're going to try to pretty much, I think what this sounds like is do just a mass incinerate, the cannabis that's illegal that they get, they want to just pretty much have a bonfire with it and ask for the funding for it, which it's quite a bit. So I'm thinking that they need to build some kind of thing to do this or something. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? On this
That's
part?
what it sounds like to me too, honestly. And okay, so I don't know if it's the current trash, the way you trash weed right now legally, or how they're supposed to, when they're manufacturing and stuff like that, is essentially you make it remulch and you mix it with the dirt, with the potting soil, you feed it back into itself, which, if it's moldy, I can understand that, spider mites got to it. But honestly, how often is that the real situation? There's not too many outdoors, facilities in comparison to Humboldt, where spider mites are more prevalent because it's outdoors and you have different pesticide type things. I digress. So the transition for getting rid of cannabis definitely needs to improve. I don't know if burning it is the best way. I honestly don't agree with like, you know, because it's just, it wasn't as pretty sometimes, you know, like it's the tragic things like that that really get to me on or like honestly the I guess removing the contraband and disposing of it in safe ways. I guess hopefully in the next presidency, it can be legalized. So it's not an issue crossing border lines, because that's the real issue, crossing border lines, imaginary lines, you know? And that's like the quality, the difference in quality. Like if you go to Colorado, it's a lot different than if you go to, honestly, New Mexico, or even, Washington,
Arizona.
Oh, geez, Arizona.
Arizona's a trip.
Yeah.
Arizona's a trip.
It is.
Yeah, and I agree that they do need to figure it out, but I don't think mass incineration is the go-to way. I'm just guessing
just gonna get that whole area high for a while, you know?
Yeah.
You're gonna burn this, and for like the next 6 hours, this town is gonna be baked as fuck, guys. Be prepared.
Right. You know, it's a little perplexing to think that they're just going to burn it like that. And like the federal government has a mass incinerator. They don't actually can't tell you where it's at. It's like classified. But like, I think there's a better way that we can go about this, you know? And to be honest, I'm surprised there hasn't been a company that's popped up that takes your waste and then composts it and then sells you back the soil, you know, like this whole, you know, little symbiotic relationship thing that they could be doing. I'm surprised that hasn't happened. Now I get it. There's certain cannabis you don't want to mix in the soil, and that's the ones that's been with solvents and stuff like that. I wouldn't want to put that in my soil. So that maybe you would want to incinerate it. But if it's natural cannabis, it hasn't been touched, you know, it hasn't been processed with any kind of solvents and stuff like that. I mean, why not? You know, and to be honest, if someone's listening and they're bored and want to start a business, I think starting a green business like that would be a great idea. You get free compost and then you sell it back to the farmers. I mean, it's a win-win situation. They're giving you the waste for free and you're making a product. So that's could be a thing. Now, if they go this route, I don't know. You know, I don't know if it's going to be incineration or they're going to have a hybrid thing, which I would hope they would have a hybrid thing, but that's one of the things they're asking for. Now, here's the biggest kicker here, and this is one that's kind of worried me. They want contingent legislation granting NMRLD law enforcement authority include. This is and like this is where it starts to get scary. Yes, to include like with cannabis and everything. You know, that's really what they want it to have. And that kind of worries me. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, do you not already have enough authority? Or like, what are we going on here? Because we don't need the CCD itself to be the cannabis police. I kind of feel that could go really bad, you know, like really bad. And if that's the case, I hope that doesn't happen. And I would fight it if it was in a bill. But if it's just the RLD and the CCD is allowed to just do their job, and RLD, who CCD is under, has their own police and they're doing their thing, okay, whatever. As long as it's not the CCD thing, you're just doing your inspections along another scope. Say it's the alcohol, tobacco guys, you know, and they're just added to the cannabis thing, and now they can do all that good stuff and make arrests. Okay, cool. They're already inspecting, they're already doing that. Versus, you know, just straight for cannabis, we're the cannabis police. Fuck you. You know, that's what I don't want. You know, I don't want them kicking indoors. I already heard some horror stories from Colorado when they did that. You know, they would show up in full gear and shield to the dispensary to inspect. You know, I'm like, what the hell? And
California too.
Yeah,
the early days, it was not pretty. Like, Even like when I first got my medical card in 2012, there were still, we would go to dispensaries 1 week, and then 2 weeks later they weren't there anymore. They were busted down. I remember that, like living in California, you know, like when we did, like that was a thing, you know, like,
and we don't need that, you know, like,
no.
yes, get rid of the bad players, but right now it kind of feels that, you know, the CCD is kind of going for low hanging fruit, you know, for, you know, because like there's certain people that told me I've been inspected 8 times this year and they haven't found anything. And I'm like, why are they inspecting you 8 times? You know, like, why aren't they going after the places that are actually getting these complaints, out of state freaking, you know, products in their shops that they're selling with a sticker over a sticker, you know, and trying to hide the California sticker, you know, and, you know, they're trying to slang it out their shop, and, you know, those people are still around, and, you know, that shouldn't be going on. You know, and I do see on their website, they are catching people, but to me, some of these people, it's like those Chinese illegal farms, you know, they just open up somewhere else and now they're not licensed and they can't do anything. And the local law enforcement, they don't want to do anything on it. They don't want to touch it. And I don't know why. It's their job. And so I kind of feel that there should be a way to either have the law enforcement be forced to do this, their job on this, or RLD maybe does need to have their police because the police force doesn't want to do anything, which I think is bull, because they should be doing their job that they're getting paid to do, but they don't want to touch it. And I get it. We have this whole federal, you know, illegal stuff, Schedule 1, this and that, but, you know, we have to be realistic here. You know, the things are changing, and they're changing quick, and we're going to have to write our laws and such. So I think maybe adding trigger laws into New Mexico's laws is going to be beneficial to us, because I think in the next 3 to 4 years, we may have some movement on the federal front. And if we're already ahead of the curve and we have trigger laws, it's just a light switch kind of thing and we're good to go. But I don't know if having the cannabis police will work in that sense, you know, will translate that well, because I don't know what the federal government's going to do. But that's the one thing that kind of scares me. And then, of course, they want, you know, over $1 million to get, you know, vehicles for these special agents, is what they're going to call them, to carry out law enforcement duties. And I'm like, that's kind of scary too.
Can I volunteer and sign up as one of these law enforcements? Because, you know, if you're going to be the cannabis police, you're going to have to test a lot of weed. So this is like where my workaholics like brain goes off. What drugs are we testing? You know, what are we testing today? You know, like let me move so I can like enroll in this task force, you know. Like that's definitely going to be interesting to see how they develop, and they intend to develop this task force, which I definitely agree. If it's like a alcohol commission additive, you know, that sounds pretty good. Or like, honestly, if they do the cannabis police directly, bro, just test that quality, please. Make sure those stats match that tube, you know, like how we were talking, like how many unregulated actual labels can we see on the Sunland Strip? Like that area is the beacon of like it quite easily could be called the foundation of the Southwest region, because it's going to branch out. Like once Texas legalized, it's a copy paste thing. And whether people are going to acknowledge it or not, it's going to be a copy paste thing, because it's already done on, you can find it on McNutt. You're going to find it on Alameda. Like that's my conversation right there. If it's on McNutt, it's going to be on Alameda. So, you know, to transmit, like you can already see like we have like the legal cannabis stores where we have like the Delta 8 products and flowers, HHC, extracts, edibles, and those are also available at certain dispensaries in the Sunland area, you know. So it's interesting to see like some of the things that are in Texas are also in New Mexico, and see the I guess the merger of the local, because like the local smoke shops have CBD, Delta 8, like you can go down the 375, and they just opened up on the east side. I'm not going to name any names, not sponsored. Honestly, I just don't remember their name. But you can see a big weed plant driving down the 375 now. So it's pretty cool. I know like there's a couple nuggies around town. I live by one. It's so crazy. Like you can go to pretty much every vape shop and get some form of weed.
Yeah, no, and it's just that available, and if we do a good job here, more places are going to use our model for that, like Texas possibly, on certain fronts. I'm sure Texas will take a couple things because they're going to say, well, let's look at places that have been near with legal cannabis. We're not stupid. Let's look at Lubbock, let's look at El Paso, let's look at all these other little places that are near the New Mexico border. What's needed here. So hopefully we'll see that in the future. But the enforcement thing is going to have to happen here, or this isn't going to work. This only works with the right enforcement component with it. Of course, over enforcement is also an issue too, and that's one thing that scares the shit out of me about legislative stuff. You have to be very specific with them. And then there's always the chance that the version of what you wanted is the worst version of what you wanted in that bill and what came out of it. And you're like, oh shit, that's not what I wanted at all. So we have to be very careful when we ask for certain things like this. Like I don't want cannabis to be seen as this highly regulated, dangerous thing because we have this special task force of these officers, a special uber crazy agents who are secret, and it's like, whoa, dude, just enforce it. Don't just fucking make us feel like we're back in the black market days, because we already have an issue dealing with cops as is. There's a lot of distrust with the cops and everything, and then you're adding something on top of that. It just doesn't really add up and doesn't help. I kind of wish there was a way that we can force the law enforcement to actually do their job and start shutting these places down so we wouldn't have to do something like this. And I hope the legislature actually goes towards that direction versus going towards this direction. Like, what is the way that we can get our law enforcement to ensure they're working with the CCD when they need to, and they will be there by law. They have to do this, such and such. I hope there's something that they can do, but that's just hopeful wishing. If not, this is probably why the reason they want to go with RLD. As long as the Cannabis Control Division doesn't have like a special cannabis police, I wouldn't see anything too bad about it. But I could see it going really, really bad too. Just having the cannabis police in general, especially right now, because we're heading into this weird area of, is it going to be Schedule 3? Is it going to be legal? Who's going to be the fucking president? And then here in the state in 2 years, who's going to be the new governor? We're running into that too, that question as well. So we'll see what happens in the future. But it looks like the cat's out the bag on our issues here. This is being nationally reported. RLD is now officially asking for actual numbers and funding to fix some of these issues. And I guess we'll see what happens when it comes time in the legislative session. But do you have anything else on that topic before we move on to our very last one of the day? And I'm just going to be quick on that one.
No, I think we went around that one pretty well, actually.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go on to our last topic, guys. And I'm going to talk about that turning point in politics that we're talking about earlier in the show. And this one I'm actually excited to talk about because things are changing, and they have changed very quickly. It's shown now that most Republican voters do support cannabis legalization, which is great to hear because that means most of America supports legalization too. Yeah, Gino's raising his hands. He's like, I'm one of them. The only unfortunate part is the Republicans that get elected are usually ones that don't like cannabis. And that's like the weird part. You have such a high percentage of your voters who like cannabis, but yet they still vote for the candidate that hates cannabis. And like that it's kind of weird to me. I support cannabis and I support this guy who hates cannabis. And it's like, what? And so, yeah, and I'm like, what? So, and in that sense, if you are a cannabis person, patient, a business owner, if you do that, you're kind of voting against yourself. Like in that sense, you kind of have to be unbiased and vote for who's going to be best for your business. You have to look away from your party lines sometimes when it comes to that. If you're just a regular voter, it's whatever to you. And that's what we're seeing, I'm sure with this, is that, yeah, I don't care if cannabis is legal or not, whatever, I'm voting for this guy because he's Republican, party lines. And that happens on both sides, like both sides do that. They do party lines. But we're seeing this huge shift. And I mentioned earlier, that both presidential candidates are supporting cannabis legalization in some way or form. One more than the other. And one has more of a plan than the other, I guess is what I should say. She hasn't come out with a full plan yet, exactly what's going to do. But, we've heard a little bit more versus, the other candidate. And so we'll see what comes from that. But this is actually showing us that something is changing in the next few years. Regardless of who we get in office, something's changing. It already got started by Biden with this whole Schedule 3 thing, which I get it, guys. We know, descheduling is what we really, really want. Legalization, Schedule 3, whatever. But that's the cards that we got right now. So I'm kind of curious to see where this is going to go. But, the Republicans look like they are changing their stance on things, which is huge, because if not, we can't get anything done in Congress without the Republican votes too. And we're so polarized politically that we can't get anything done in Congress without that. And so if we start getting either Republican candidates who are cannabis friendly in office, or they start changing their mind, then we'll get something done. But even if we get these cannabis friendly candidates in office, it's up to Congress to pass these bills. And it's up to us to elect the cannabis friendly congressional representatives, because if not, we're stuck with what we have.
That part.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, what do you think of that, like, so far? What are your feelings on, that change, really? Huge change.
Definitely. I think that's probably the scariest part, because, like, here locally, in like the El Paso Normal chapter, the Republicans are very, very, like, vocal that they're Republicans,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm independent, so I really don't care. I'm always a swing ballot, so I know when I go to vote, I definitely pay attention to who has my best interest as a patient, because I know cannabis is like 1000% like almost everything in my life. Literally named my child Indica. So so I know that's definitely always something that I paid attention to. And I know a lot of people don't actually pay attention to. It's not something that a lot of people actually are aware, that they have to put the correct people in office, and they have to go out and vote and say, hey, this guy says he wants weed, so I should put him down because he's going to make sure that I can smoke and I'll be okay, know? And a lot of people don't understand that, and they're just like, oh, okay, this is just a name, if they even show up.
Yeah.
And what happens a lot of the times, it's because of like in El Paso, a lot of the more conservative voters are the ones that are going to the polling, because they understand that they control what happens because of who they put in office, whose ideals they align with. And many people I know, when they go out to vote, and it's very important that across all the states, everybody goes out to vote and supports to make sure that we're all safe, and in the stoner community to be ourselves, and have hopefully a national level of legalization quickly, so that we can honestly all have the same problems and all have the same consistency of medication, because it's something that I know not everybody wants to understand, how the chemicals that we receive in cannabis are even produced in breast milk. So it's something organic, natural, that we develop within ourselves. Cannabis just happens to be the plant that outside of the human body we can extract it from. So hopefully we can all regulate and on a federal, medicinal, and holistic level, because honestly I think once people can understand that it's part of our brains already, like, just make yourself better.
Yeah, definitely. And with the support more with our legislature, hopefully it's happening, because like like you said, in Texas over there, most of them do vote Republican, and unfortunately they're not looking, if they're cannabis users, sometimes they're probably not caring if they're a cannabis supporter or not. It's the other issues that they're worried about. But if you're wanting to get into the industry, you're wanting it to become legalized in Texas, you're going to have to look at a different candidate. And sometimes you might have to vote for a different party. I'm independent myself too, so I'll vote for whoever, whoever I believe is going to support my industry and support me. So it's understandable if you vote for Democrat, Republican, Tea Party, whatever. If they fall in the lines of what you believe in, vote for them. If just not just because they're in your party. Voting along party lines is very dangerous. Here in New Mexico, we have a lot of Democrats, right? But there's a lot of conservative Democrats that are essentially just running on the Democratic ticket. But they're like Republicans in disguise. And so there's a lot of that in New Mexico, and people are like, oh, it's a blue state. I'm like, ish. There's still a lot of, conservativeness in our legislature, and it's not as bad as it was before 2018. After 2018, actually, a lot of those legislators got voted out, and we voted some more friendly ones in. But that's the thing in New Mexico. There's still a lot of conservativeness here, and that's things that people don't understand. And we still don't have support from some of these people on the cannabis side, and some of them are chairs of very important committees, and their bills essentially go there to die. But they're like, I'm a Democrat, and people vote for them just for the fact that they're a Democrat, but they don't realize how conservative they really are in certain things, especially on cannabis. So we have to look at all sides and all things. Like if you have a Republican candidate, look at them. Maybe they're more a liberal Republican, and you're just voting for them because they're Republican. Like maybe they don't actually align up with what you believe in. Maybe the other candidate is a conservative Democrat, and maybe we have it all wrong. Like, the whole blue versus red thing, it goes back to that. But, I'll jump back onto the conversation of why this is happening too. So there's a few reasons that I believe why we're seeing this huge shift. And it's been happening for a long time, but it's been very slow. And I think the shifts are happening because now we have over half the states have legalized cannabis in them, not just medical like it was, over a decade now. Now we have legal cannabis in over half the nation, right? That's crazy. And now we also have adults using cannabis more than they're drinking alcohol, which I find stellar. I'm happy that people are choosing cannabis over alcohol. I've seen the horrors of what alcohol can do. And, being a military veteran, of course, when you're in, they like pour it down your throat. So I've seen the dumb that comes from it. So we have that, right? We have this polarized change in a lot of attitudes, and not just the public, but also businesses and also other things too, politically. So we have that huge shit, and those two together are causing this shift, because now it caused the two candidates for president to say, oh, I need to support cannabis because look at this, and then we have the hemp industry that's been around, for a long time, and they've helped also normalize the cannabis too. As much as I said is caused confusion, it has helped with the normalization too, but it did cause some confusion because we're dealing with that right now. I'm sure the shops getting shut down for the Delta 8 and stuff like that is, still happening in Texas. The hemp drive stuff in New Mexico isn't as crazy as the other states. Of course, it's legal here. You can just go to a dispensary. But I know it is a thing. And that, that's something that has just helped us is the hemp thing. So we have this huge shift, and now it's up to the representatives to catch up, and we'll see November who catches up and who doesn't. Because the people are going to vote, and they're going to vote with their hearts and with their minds. And I hope that you guys do go out and vote. And I'm glad that you're a voter yourself too. So thank you. I don't care who you vote for, anybody who votes for. I'm just glad that you're doing your due diligence and you're voting. So I really appreciate you doing that. But that's really all I have for this episode and everything. I just wanted to update everybody on that thing and the turning point. Really give an explanation of really why it's happening. But we are seeing a turning point. And I say in the next 4 years, it's going to be a bigger turning point, and we're going to see some real progress. I really appreciate you being on. I look forward to see what you guys do. Like you said, it's been a rocky start for you guys because of COVID. I understand that it has been for everyone. But it's great to have El Paso is such a great neighbor, and you guys are giving us so much money, so how could we not thank you so much? But I'm excited to see what Texas has in store too. You guys deserve legal cannabis as much as I want to get all this money and keep it for ourselves. That's stubborn and stingy, and that's not real America. That's not real freedom. So I hope Texas sooner than later legalizes it, and we'll see what happens. And I really thank you. Is there anything you want to say before we head out?
Thank you so much for having me. I am so grateful for this opportunity and your time and the conversation. Can't wait to come on again.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. And next season will start probably in January, guys. Don't forget, the Grassy Logic Expo is going to be November 12th and 13th. Make sure you get your tickets. Gino, can you make sure that link is in there if you could? Yes, link will be in the description, so that way you guys just give it a click and go. Veterans and active duty, yeah, you guys actually get it for free. So just show a DD-214 or some kind of ID. We get them from the VA. You get them if you're in the military. The reason why I say that is because one of my battle buddies, she actually asked JAG, and JAG confirmed that, yeah, you can go to that. There's no cannabis consumption. There's no products there. I mean, you go to the gas station, right? There's hemp products there. So you can go to this event and learn, there's nothing wrong. So if you're active duty, you're going to get out and you're kind of curious about the cannabis industry, come on down, check it out. No one's going to oust you that you're in active duty other than yourself. So, you can, say whatever story you want, but you don't have to tell anybody that you're in the military if you don't feel comfortable. But anyway, that's all I have for this week. I wanted to put out there. Thank you again, Monster House, for your contribution to the show, for being a sponsor for most of the season, actually. So I thank you guys, and I look forward to the rest of this season. We only have about 3 more episodes left now. It's been a fun season, and thank you again for joining me, Mary. And like I said, good luck to you guys, and I will see you guys next week. All right, shoots.
What?